How's it going, everyone? Before I jump into my favorite albums of 2019, I first just wanted to shout out my top 10 favorite EPs of last year, because they're all great projects too, and I'm not going to be doing a separate video for this, so I still wanted to give these projects some love. So at number 10, I have Dangerous by Shay Leah. At number 9, I have You on the Bed, Me in the Sink by Russolo Collective. At number 8, I have Trash Island by Drain Gang. At number 7, I have Big Day by Slow Pulp. At number 6, I have Save Me by Future. At number 5, I have 3P by Saw Baby. At number 4, I have Wapcon Joji by Mac Hami. At number 3, I have Gangway for Navy by Navy Blue. At number 2, I have Exordium Delicacy Vestibule Farce by Vale Smith. And at number 1, to the surprise of nobody who knows me at all, I have Feet of Clay by Earl Sweatshirt. And now I just wanted to go over some honorable mentions, some albums that I've played a lot this year that I really like, but they just didn't quite make it because, you know, there were albums I like better. So Komachi by Mayte, Origami by Vale Smith, Plastic Anniversary by Matmos, Guns by Quelle Chris, Anger Management by Rico Nasty and Kenny Beats, 1000 Gex by 100 Gex, You Know What I'm Saying by Danny Brown, Weeping Choir by Full of Hell, Wildcard by Z Loopers, Zoo by Denzel Curry, Eve by Rhapsody, The End by Shlomo, American Football 3 by American Football, and then Lil Big Man by Maxo. So those are all great projects as well. If you haven't heard any of them and you've heard most of the ones on my list, then hey, maybe some of the ones here are the ones to go check out. But anyways, without further ado, my top 50 albums of 2019, starting off at number 50 with Miri by Basaku, Kuyate, and Ngoni Ba. I'm very sorry if I botched the pronunciation of their name. However, this was the first album that I had ever really been exposed to in the musical styling of Mande. It's a very unique sounding genre from Africa. I'm not quite sure which part exactly. You might want to go to Ryan Leith for more information on that if you want, because he's just a huge nut for this type of stuff. But he's the one who put me onto this album, and I had to say, like, you know, it's my first exposure to the genre, so I don't really have much frame of reference, but it just sounds really damn cool. And honestly, there's just such a joyous and vibrant feel to this album. I don't know how you could not listen to it and just have a smile on your face the entire time. At number 49, I have Serpent Power by Celestial Tracks. This is a pretty gorgeously subdued ambient project. Whenever I listen to it, I kind of feel like I'm just taking a walk through a dimly lit room while this like beautiful garden just kind of unfurls and grows around me. At 48, I have Triage by Methyl Ethyl, just a really fun and catchy set of psychedelic pop tunes. So many fantastic melodies and choruses all across this thing. At 47, I have Injury's self-titled debut record. Now, I still love this project a lot. Of course, it may have dipped on me a little bit since its release, but despite that, there's still a ton of creativity on here, especially on the part of Parker Corey, the producer, and just some of the song structures and concepts they come up with, like Rap Song Tutorial. I mean, you might think that that would just kind of get old after a while, after you got used to the gimmick, but every time I play that song, it's still so much fun, and I just find it super creative as well. I accidentally skipped over number 46, but I should have had my favorite ambient album of the year, and that would be Tracing Back the Radiance by Jeffrey Cantula Desma. At 45, I have The Healing by Bantu Continua Uhuru Consciousness, and this is just one of the most energizing projects I've heard all year. This thing is only 3 tracks long, but the first 2 songs on here are both near 20 minutes each, but neither of them ever lose my attention, and neither of them ever lose their adrenaline, and they just keep amping up the energy, keep pumping you up. There's just a lot of good vibes on this album as well. The vocalist is just so wild and eccentric and just fun to listen to. The whole project, it's fun, it's energizing, and it'll certainly amp you up if you need to go for a run, go for a workout, anything like that. At 44, I have The Twilight Sad with It Won't Be Like This All the Time, just a great set of melancholic post-punk tracks. At 43, I have one that might piss a lot of people off, but you know what, I don't care, it's my list. I have GFOTV by GFOTY. Now, I just have to say, like, when this came out, like, I listened to it, and I just genuinely enjoyed it. Like, you might think this is ironic, or like, I like it because it's so bad it's good. I just straight up think this is a good project that I really like. I listened to this the day it came out, I was like, oh shit, like, this is really good. Like, I think it's super catchy. I think a lot of the production is really nice. It has a nice, you know, kind of pristine shine to a lot of it. It feels very immersive at points. You know, her vocals, you know, they're not traditionally good, and I could see how the roboticness of them could be annoying to people, but I thought they fit the concept of the album very well, and I thought they fit the overall sound of the album very well. I just like this thing a lot. I find it really catchy. I find some of the lyrics, yeah, they're kind of dumb at points, but I just find some humor in that, at least, especially in just how dry the delivery and like the phrasing of them are. I don't know, there's just a certain charm this record has that I personally see in it. But anyways, like, I just, you know, I was listening to it, and I thought all this just immediately. Then I just go online, I just see that everyone thinks this is like the worst album of the year or something, and you know, that's cool, but like, you know, I'm still gonna put it on my list because I know I like it. At 42, I have Careful by Boy Harsher. This might be my most danced to album of the year, because whenever I put it on, it's just so I can pretty much dance my ass off and just, you know, flail my limbs around like an idiot. But also, I really like the aesthetic of this project as well. It just makes me feel like I'm in some basement club in the 90s that's super dirty and dingy, and I'm just raving, and there's also like vampires and shit around. Basically, it makes me feel like I'm in From Dusk Till Dawn, I guess. But yeah, it just captures a really particular feeling, especially with like these 3 more interludish songs on here that are just, you know, used to hoist up the atmosphere. I just think it does that really successfully, while also just having a great tune at the core of each of these songs. At number 41, I have Under the Shade by Caleb Giles, I don't know how to pronounce it. But either way, this is just one of the most peaceful rap albums I've heard all year. Like, whenever I put this on, I just feel like I'm in a nice, serene, meditative headspace. And also, this guy he comes up with some really unique flows on here. Like on the song Blackberries, just the way he's rapping. Like, I don't know, I'm really excited to hear more from this guy in the future as well. And some of the beats on here on songs like 2 are just they're just so beautiful, and this whole project is really short, but it's also really easy to get lost in as well. At 40, I have Sharon Van Etten with Remind Me Tomorrow, just a great set of indie rock, indie pop songs that are coated in this really warm, nostalgic feeling that is really easy to get lost in. At 39, I have Dynamite by Z-Loopers. This guy is one of the most eccentric rappers in the game, and yet this might be his most traditional sounding project to date, you know, whether that's the fantastic beats on here, courtesy of Black Noise, whether it's because, you know, he's tempered down his really wild rapping a little bit. I mean, you go listen to a project like Help, some of those songs, like this guy is just flying off the handles, screaming the most wild shit you've ever heard in his really cracky, high-pitched, barky voice that I personally really love and adds a ton of character to his music. And, you know, you still do get some of that on here. You know, songs like Prozac are just, you know, pretty damn weird. But with a lot of the songs on here, you'll actually find he's rapping pretty normally, at least in terms of his delivery, but he's still coming through with some really interesting cadences and flows, and then especially lyrically. Like, this album just, to me, has a lot of his most witty and clever lyrical moments, and that just makes a lot of these songs a lot more exciting than on his other projects. And he's always had, you know, great one-liners here or there, but I feel like on this project he comes through with them a lot more consistently. And then you have songs like Bigger Than Me as well, which just have a really, you know, hard emotional pull to them. They're more conceptual lyrically. You know, he's talking about, you know, one thing for the entire song rather than just a bunch of lines that are dope but, you know, don't really come together to form anything bigger than that. At 38, I have Ghost Teen by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, whereas Skeleton Tree was this really dark, just soul-crushing album devoid of any happiness, life, or anything like that. It was Nick fresh off the death of his son, just pretty much showing you all his raw pain and frustration and sadness. But on this album, while Nick is still dealing with the grief of his son's death, it feels like he's in the final few stages before coming to acceptance. Like, it feels by the end of this album like he has finally accepted it, you know, and I don't know whether that's the case or not on a personal level, but just this album, it feels a lot more hopeful while also still being super sad and soul crushes, but there's just a sorrowness to it, you know what I mean, while also just having that slight hint of hope. And a lot of that comes with the instrumentals on here as well. You have a lot of these glistening, shimmering scents that, you know, they do carry a lot of melancholy, but a bit of an uplifting feeling as well, as I've already said. And as far as the lyrics go, Nick Cave just proves once again that he's one of the best songwriters and poets of the last 100 years. Like, pretty much every word this guy says just causes you to feel something, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't waste a single word, and it's something that is so easy to just respect, especially when you turn it into music this powerful and haunting. At 37, I have Proto by Holly Herndon. The concept of this album is that she made her own AI program and taught it to sing, which on its own is cool enough, but the way that she actually incorporates that AI then into this album, I think is even cooler, especially with some of the more conceptual stuff here. You know, it definitely is very futuristic in its approach. Not in the sense that music is going to sound like this in the future, but just in the sense that, you know, she understands that a lot of music making has to do with the technology available at the time, and I like how she's pushing that boundary, but then also just as well, like the lyrical content on here as well. A lot of that also focuses on themes relating to the future and progression of humanity and society. At 36, I have Westside Gunn with Fly God is an Awesome God. To me, Westside is almost like the boom bap equivalent of Young Thug. His voice is super kooky and eccentric. His flows and deliveries that he uses are often just really bizarre and sometimes hard to wrap your head around at first. His excessive and over-the-top ad-libs, his really goofy one-liners, I'll just say that for me personally, whether that comparison makes sense to you or not, I can just safely say that the part of me that loves Young Thug is the same part that really loves what Westside Gunn is doing. And then to add on top of all that, the production on this album is also, I find, very unique for this subgenre of rap, and is fantastic from front to back as well. I mean, when I hear songs like Sensational Sherry, Amherst Station 3, Pete's Sake, Lakers vs. Rockets, like, to me those just come across as a very cool and unique way to approach making a boom bap beat, and I can't really hear many other people aside from this Griselda crew rapping over beats like that. So I just really love what the whole Griselda crew is doing in general, and Westside is probably my favorite out of them, and and this was my favorite West Side project from last year, so had to put it on here. At 35, I have Solange with When I Get Home. What I really love about this project is that even though every song is very skeletal, and honestly that's kind of part of the appeal because you don't usually hear neo-soul songs that are this skeletal and almost demo-ish, not in the sense that they sound unfinished, but just in the sense that they're very bare bones. But what I love is that despite that, every song just feels like it had so much care and attention put into it, and because it's so skeletal, like it really does feel like everything here had to be here, you know what I mean? Like it was just, everything is perfectly placed where it needs to be. She added nothing more and nothing less than that. At 34, I have Days Before 3 by Lucky. This is maybe his most woozy and syrupy sounding project to date, and then Lucky, you know, him and his content just fit that sound perfectly. I love the production and just the music overall on here. And then Lucky himself is coming once again with so many fantastic one-liners and just content in general, giving you an update as he always does on his state of mind and his life at this point in his life. At 33, I have Angel's Pulse by Blood Orange. All the usual things that make a Blood Orange project great are what make this one great as well for the most part, but what is unique about this one and what I think brings a really cool flair to the project is that this is a mixtape of unfinished songs, demos, loosies, stuff like that, but the way he strings it all together, he doesn't just throw it all just, you know, in a random playlist, randomly ordered, like, and then just, you know, here's a bunch of unfinished songs, go listen to them. This feels like a very carefully constructed front-to-back project. I mean, first of all, there's the fact that these songs, they run beautifully into each other, some of my favorite song-to-song transitions that I've heard this year, and just overall, like, this feels like something that is meant to be played front to back, and you get a lot out of it front to back that you don't just listening to song, because I mean, some of the songs on their own, they do kind of feel just like fragments, they feel a bit unfinished, but I feel like everything here together, put together, it's definitely a case, in my opinion, of the whole being more than the sum of its parts. At 32, I have E by Echo 2K. Musically, this album is able to perfectly capture the glow, the beauty, and just the magic of an ecstasy high, whereas on a lyrical level, it feels more like the morning after, where all the serotonin has just been used up and squeezed out of your brain, and you're just sitting on the train ride to work, looking out the window, up at the clouds, wondering, how the hell did I get here? And, you know, just questioning all your life choices. Drug addiction and drug use has been prevalent throughout human society for thousands of years, but what does change from generation to generation is what that drug addiction and drug use looks like, and I feel like this album right here is maybe the most perfect encapsulation of what, you know, 2010s or now 2020s drug use and drug addiction looks like. At 31, I have Fucking Bliss by American Pleasure Club. I have to say, out of all the albums I heard this year, this might have been the one that it took me the longest time to wrap my head around what was really going on in here. Not only because, you know, some of the individual songs themselves are pretty jarring, but this album has, like, no stylistic cohesion whatsoever. I mean, song to song, you just got random ass shit going on. You'll go from this heavy, crushing, droning, just like utter dark, pitch black song to this weird ass auto-tuned piano ballad that sounds like it came from Slime Season 1. So I mean, like, there's some really strange stuff going on here, but that ends up being part of the appeal. You know, when I'm listening to this, it almost feels like I'm just walking through this thick, dense fog, and like, I just don't know where I'm going, I don't know what's happening around me, I'm just utterly confused, but it is a chilling and haunting experience nonetheless. At 30, I have one of the most colorful and melodically rich albums I've heard all year that is just a great spacey journey from front to finish, and that is The Life of Pierre 4 by Pierre Bourne. At 29, I have Assume Form by James Blake, a really gorgeous, warm, heartfelt dedication to his current girlfriend that does a really great job of depicting the infatuation, the self-doubt, the shared empathy, and just everything about the honeymoon phase of a relationship. At 28, I have a very silky and graceful art pop album in the form of Blood by Kelsey Lou. At 27, I have Terror Management by Billy Woods. This was the second album he released in 2019, and it has some of his most creative beats to date, in my opinion, like Dead Birds. That, you know, kind of metal sample he used on there is pretty crazy. A song like Gas Leak with that weird-ass drum pattern that he's rapping over. As far as beat selection goes, I think this is some of the coolest production he's ever rapped over, and then lyrically, he's Billy Woods. He's doing his thing. He doesn't miss a beat. There's really nothing more to say on that front if you already know who Billy Woods is or if you've ever heard a Billy Woods album. At 26, I have one of the most exciting debut albums probably of all last decade, and that would be Schlagenheim by Black Midi. What these guys were able to showcase in just this one project, it just shows so much promise, but not only promise, like they're already there. Like this project alone is fantastic and is one of the most unique rock records that I've heard in a while, and it's clear that these guys are just going to keep pushing the boundary and are just bringing a great new voice to the rock music scene. At 25, I have Athena by Sudan Archives, a really rich sounding and empowering string-led neo-soul album. At 24, I have Orchestre Univers by LaBelle. I don't know if there's an exact name for the type of music that they're making on here, but it's basically a blend of modern classical with more electronic elements, and the end result is one of the coolest sounding things I've heard all year. At 23, I have The Wizard by Future. Now, I have a review for this album on my channel, where if you would watch that, you would think, what the fuck is it doing on your year-end list? But over the course of 2019, I had a pretty big transformation when it came to Future, and now he's like one of my favorite rappers of all time, so you know, that's just kind of how it is what it is. But yeah, I think this album is a great addition to his discography. He's doing so much stuff on here that just feels really refreshing for him, whether it's new vocal effects that, you know, we haven't really heard from him, that he's able to use to manipulate his voice in weird and new ways, whether he's coming through with really strange cadences and flows and just deliveries in general on songs like Call the Coroner or Overdose. He plays around a lot more with beat switches on this project than in his other work, and on some songs like FNN and Baptize, it leads to two of the best beat switches of the year in my opinion. And then as always, you get the more personal Future songs or songs with more serious content, and this album has some of his best, whether it be Never Stop, Ain't Coming Back, Tricks on Me, First Off. I just love how Future is able to showcase something different on pretty much all 20 tracks here. Like, there's a couple songs here or there that maybe feel like they're doing similar things, both very well though, but for the most part, like, there's just a lot of variety on here, but it also all comes together very cohesively. The whole thing just has that, you know, typical airy, atmospheric, woozy sound that Future is known for, and that's really what I love about him in general, is he's able to string together so many cool and different ideas in a very concise and coherent manner, so it all fits within the guise of one album, one sound, one project, you know, whatever the main sound he's going for is, while also just doing completely different things. And yeah, so I'm just a Future stan by now. I understand a lot of people still think he's like super mediocre and just doesn't really do anything special. We're just hearing different things, that's fine. At 22, I have Solipsisters by Katie Day. This is easily one of the most powerful records I've heard the entire year, especially on a lyrical level. One of my small critiques of the record is that the lyrics at points can be a bit hard to make out just the way they're mixed. So, you know, it is a bit hard sometimes to get the full effect of the songs, but especially any listen of this album where I've like sat down along with it and read the lyrics, it just always hits me the same way it did the first time I heard it. Like, it never loses its poignancy for me, and that's one of the reasons why I've continued to love it as much as I do. And then on a musical level, this thing just feels very kaleidoscopic. Like, if you look at the cover of this thing, that's pretty much what each instrumental on here sounds like. Just all these lights and colors just coming at you from every angle, and it's a lot to take in, but it's a very beautiful record. It's a very heartbreaking one at times, but at the end of the day, it's also very empowering, and I don't know, I just think this is a very special project. And if you haven't heard, I'd of course highly recommend giving it a shot. At 21, I have Let the Sun Talk by Mavi. When I first heard this project, when I first put it on, and he comes in on that first song, the first song he's rapping on anyways, with the difference between a guy like me and 100 million is a couple years, and he just comes in with so much swagger and confidence the way he said that, I was just like, holy fuck, goddamn. Like, that might be the most confident start to a debut album that I've ever heard in my entire life, and he just completely captured me from there. There's so many great lines across this entire project, you know, I got that thing on me to keep a plane from taking off. The entire song of Oh Mavi, like, every single line in that song just hurt me, because definitely when I first heard it, I was like, man, I relate to that shit way too hard. At 20, I have Hatchie with Keepsake, definitely the most lush and dreamy album of the year. If you're a Cocteau Twins fan, like I am, 0% chance you won't like this. At 19, I have The Origin of My Depression by Yuboa. This is one of the most hard to listen to albums of the year, because she holds no punches on this. She really just plunges you headfirst into all the mental demons she is dealing with, and it is just, it feels pitch black, you know, for the majority of this thing. Like, you really are just sitting there suffering with her. Obviously not, you know, you're not experiencing what she is, and she has it way worse than, you know, just someone just listening to the album. And, you know, music itself is never going to be able to capture fully the feeling of experiencing stuff like this, but she comes damn close to it. Like, you just feel her pain, and man, it is harrowing, but it is good. At 18, Carly Rae Jepsen with Dedicated just continues to write some of the slickest and smartest pop songs of recent memory. Also, her as a performer, she just brings so much soul and innocence and honestly just purity to her music. You know, she may not have the best vocals in the world, you know, she's no Adele or anything, but that's not really what's important here. It's really just that spark she brings to her music that just makes it feel so alive, and just, it makes it feel so much more human than so many of her contemporaries. At 17, I have Bandana by Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. In some ways, I think this is better than Pinata. I think Freddie's rapping first and foremost, like some of the flows that he brings on here, and just his rapping in general, like he just glides through these songs like no other person in the game really right now can. Like his flow is so smooth. Like oh, he's like a fucking figure skater the way he maneuvers around these songs. And his flows are so versatile, like from line to line. Like he's just changing up his cadence, his pattern, everything. Like as far as like a display of rapping ability goes, like this is definitely Freddie at his best, and it pretty much shows you why, in my opinion, he's one of the best rappers of last decade. Like, he's just crazy on this, and lyrically, I feel like he steps his game up on a lot of songs, too. He's bringing, you know, a bit more variety of content, and I feel like he's always been unfairly pinned down as a guy who only talks about one thing, because he's always had songs like Deeper and Real and Crush Glass and Maria, and just a lot of songs like that. But, you know, it is fair to say, for the most part, he does stick to that street content, to, you know, that coke rap stuff. But I feel like on this project, you know, at least like half the songs have, you know, totally different content from each other, talking about different things on each one. So I really respected that. I feel like lyrically, it's probably some of his best work to date. The only thing is, there are a couple songs on here I personally would have cut off. If you took off Massage Seats and Education, neither of which are bad songs, they're both good. I just don't think they even come close to the level the rest of these songs hit. Like, if you took off those two songs, this would probably catapult up to my top 10, honestly. It would be one of my favorite, probably, rap records of all last decade. And, you know, it still is. Like, it's a fantastic project. I don't want to give the impression that this is, you know, some great album that could have been, but they ruined it. Like, it still is fantastic. All I'm saying is it could have hit a whole other level. It could have hit that Pinata level, if you know what I mean. Where it still is, it's still great. I still play this thing all the time. At 16, I have The Destroyer Part 1 by Trust, and honestly, I don't have much to say about this one other than this is just some fire-ass dark wave synth pop. Like, the songs on here are great. That's really all it is, man. Like, there's not much deep going on here. Not much that's too out of the ordinary, but holy fuck, they wrote some good songs. At 15, I have Sandy Alex G with House of Sugar. Listening to this album makes me feel like I'm just swimming around in a warm pool made out of like stars and constellations and galaxies and just cosmic dust and all this gorgeous magical looking stuff, because oh my god, this thing is just so warm and rich and lush, and honestly it just puts me in a trance for its entire runtime. It's hypnotizing. And I really love the way these songs are mixed, because they somehow simultaneously sound very clean and muddy. Clean in the sense that everything sounds pristine, it sounds, you know, it's not lo-fi in the slightest, it's all very high quality, the production is fantastic, but all the instruments, they kind of just blend together to form this beautiful cosmic soup that I just want to keep eating and eating and eating, and it just totally encompasses you, and you're just fully submerged in it, and it's wild, man, but it's awesome. At 14, I have All Mirrors, where Angel Olsen decided she was going to make the most badass string music of all time and then just went ahead and did it. I mean, every song on here, it just feels so epic in scope. I can hear pretty much all of these songs being used at the climax of a movie or something like that. It's just that type of music. Even the last song on here, you know, it's more subdued than the rest. Just got a nice little 6/8 time signature, but you know, just throw in a little quirky indie romance film at the part of the movie where the protagonists are having their first little ballroom dance scene together. You know, you could just find a spot for all these songs in some movie or some shit. You fuck off. At 13, I have Flamboyant by Dorian Electra. Not only is this a very off-the-wall, creative, forward-thinking pop album where every song is just catchy as fuck and utterly irresistible, but I also really like the lyrical content on this. Themes like self-expression, identity, and gender are explored in very smart and well-written ways all over this thing, and they all culminate to just create a project that just has a very simple but powerful message of just be whoever the fuck you want to be. You know what I mean? Just be flamboyant if you want to be flamboyant. Be who you are. And you know, I just love it, and it goes so well with the actual sound of the music as well. My number 12 might shock some people who, you know, regularly watch me, because I feel like they would have expected me to have this a lot higher, but at number 12 I have My Heroes Are Cornballs by JPEG Mafia. I'm not going to go deep into this, because if you want to know what I think about it, you could just go watch my review, and I still stand by everything I said there. The only thing that would have changed is my score. I have it as a 9 now instead of a 10, but to me the difference between a 9 and a 10 is literally just the feeling it gives you. Like, it's not like I'm giving an album a 9 because, oh, this one random song over here had some slight mixing issues, so oh, it's not perfect, so now I can't give it a 10. I don't really care about all that shit. If I like an album enough, you know, I don't really get nitpicky with it. A 10 doesn't mean an album is perfect, it just means it has, you know, it's peak enjoyment for me. Like, I can't be any more amazed and impressed and enjoy music more than I do this. And when this album first came out, it was definitely that for me. It was for, you know, the first few months it was out. Sadly, you know, it ended up losing a bit of that for me, but I still love it, of course. It's still my 12th favorite album of the year, and when you've heard, you know, over 200 albums that it does say something, I still play it a lot. I still think it's good. I don't know why I'm defending myself here, but all I'm saying is that if you want to get my feelings, I still stand by everything I said in that review. It's just overall, I like it a bit less just relative to other stuff, I guess. At number 11, I have Tears of Joy by Mike. Another one where if you want to hear my thoughts, you could just go watch the review I made for it, just in the interest of saving time, because I've kind of been going on way too long already. But now we're finally down to the top 10. And at number 10, I have Clipping with There Existed an Addiction to Blood. Now, I have to say, the first time I heard this album, I was pissed off. I was mad. And it's not because it wasn't good. It was just because some of the ideas that they came up with on here, when I heard them, I was like, how the fuck does someone come up with this? Like, if I was a musician and I heard this album, I would just quit. Like, I would never make music again. I would be like, what's the point? Like, how the fuck does someone come up with what they did on a song like Run For Your Life? When I first heard that song, and you just hear those, like, car noises coming in the background, and then you, like, hear, you know, the music playing from the cars, and then you start realizing that they built the whole fucking beat out of, like, the sound of passing cars. What the... I mean, how the fuck do you come up with that? Like, David's just there rapping the whole time, and you have these cars phasing in and out of the backgrounds, each with different beats, but he fits through all of them. Rap it fucking G. He just does whatever, man, I don't even know. It's crazy shit that's happening on here, and the whole horrorcore theme is executed perfectly. So many songs where, like, you know, a lot of the production on here is similar to Splendor and Misery. It definitely emphasizes soundscape and overall mood rather than, you know, rhythm or anything like that. But that's what I love about it. Like, there's a lot of beats on here where there isn't much rhythm. They're weirdly structured. You're like, how the fuck is someone even gonna rap on it? But then David comes on and just shows you that you're a little idiot for thinking that he couldn't do it. And then thematically, the way that they use the horrorcore stylings and elements to talk about the mistreatment of black people in the United States and how violence against them, you know, no matter how brutal, has often just been shrugged off or even worse, used for entertainment by the ruling class. Just everything about this album to me is the pinnacle of artistic creativity, if you know what I mean. And not that creativity is the be-all end-all, but the execution is fantastic on here as well. So, I mean, when you pair those two things together, you get a hell of a special album. At 9, I have So Much Fun by Young Thug. Listening to this album for the first time, I just felt like a proud dad, honestly. Young Thug is one of the only artists who I've listened to them, you know, ever since I've been into music. I've loved them consistently, like never wavering the entire time I've been into music, and I've followed them since the beginning of their career. Like, the only other artists I can think of who fall into that category are maybe FKA Twigs and Death Grips, but besides that, like, I just remember back in 2014, the first time I heard The Tour Part 1, that's the one that really got me. And just ever since then, I've been, you know, a massive Young Thug fan. Just following him over the years, it already feels like he has an entire career behind him. I mean, sure, this may technically be his debut studio album, but, I mean, in the day and age of, you know, mixtapes and EPs feeling like albums all the time, and him having, you know, countless ones of those, and just, there's so many different eras he's gone through. You know, you had Barter 6, and then you go to Jeffrey, and then you go to the country shit on Beautiful Thugger Girls. Like, he's just gone through so many phases. He's evolved so many times. I mean, what he's accomplished in like 6-7 years is just incredible to me, and I've loved watching the progression. And then this is just like the perfect way to cap it off, in my opinion, because this album, you know, not everything that he's ever done that's amazing, you know, appears on here, but I do think this is like a perfect showcase of most of the things that are great about Young Thug. You know, it's almost like a culmination of his entire career while still, you know, doing new things. I mean, he's never really made a song like What's the Move before, with those nature sounds in the back, that serene soundscape it builds. I mean, that song is fantastic. You have songs like Sup Mate and Cartier Gucci Scoff, where he shows off all the weird-ass vocal inflections that we've come to love him for. Songs like Surf, where, I mean, his ad-libs are just hilariously entertaining and just add so much character and personality to his music. Songs like Bad Bad Bad, Big Tipper, Mannequin Challenge, where he's showing us he can flow his goddamn ass off. And all over this project, honestly, this might be some of his best, if not his best, rapping to date. That was what I was most impressed with the first time I heard this. You know, there were some songs that took a while to grow on me. You know, maybe I wasn't too into the beats. Maybe I thought it was just a bit weird, and then they grew on me. But either way, like, the one thing that, like, struck me right away on this was that, you know, performance-wise, in terms of his rapping, his delivery, his flows, like, Young Thug absolutely destroyed everything on here. And I mean, I know he uses, like, the snake symbol for a lot of his music and, you know, for his label stuff, but the way he rides it, like, he really just, it's like slithers around these songs like a snake. Like, the way he just switches up his flow in the middle of his verse on Big Tipper, and then just starts kicking these new flows. He does that all over this thing on every song. It's just so crazy, and it's so smooth and slick, and, like, I really don't think anyone can maneuver their way around a beat like Young Thug can, especially when you, like, take into account his delivery as well, you know, how he's jumping back from all these weird voices and inflections that he's doing as he's doing these crazy-ass flows as well. And I mean, this album is just 19 tracks of near-perfect songs. He did put Boy Back on here, which has more Nav than Young Thug, and, you know, not to just, you know, everything Nav does is terrible. I like Baguettes in the Face. Okay, Nav can do some stuff that I enjoy, but, like, this is just Nav at his absolute worst. Like, this is fucking just terrible, you know, in my nappity sap sack sack or whatever the fuck he's doing on there. Like that song is terrible. I can't even lie. But the rest of the songs on here are so amazing that I don't even care that Nav had to ruin an entire track for me. You know, that's how good this is. He let Nav ruin a song, and it's still a top 10 album of the year. At number 8, I have A Quiet Farewell by Sloss and Malone. This album is really unlike anything I've ever heard, both in terms of style and what it's able to accomplish. In terms of style, it's very sound collage heavy. You just have all these weird-ass elements kind of thrown together. The song-to-song transitions can be jarring. You're really jumping all over the place. A lot of times, there's almost like no sense of what's going on. Like, this is an album, a lot of people will tell you, including myself, you have to listen to a few times to really wrap your head around what's going on, even make sense of it, even like, you know, parse out where the enjoyability is at times. But I think that one thing that a lot of people, including myself, will get right away, you know, if this is a project for you, I can understand that's not going to be for everyone, but it really just feels like it's taking me on like a Scrooge-like journey through my past, present, and future. It's like I'm going through a scrapbook of my entire life. Because it's so unique musically, it's able to capture such particular emotions within me when I hear it. Like, it just hits certain parts of me that, like, you know, is usually not reached by music. So, I mean, I just thought it was one of the coolest things I've heard all year, and returning to it, like, it's not one you're going to just play over and over and over, but it's one that's just great to return to, like, maybe once a month and just go on that journey again. And I think it's a special ass album too, and I'm really excited to see what he does in the future, because I like Standing on the Corner a lot as well, but I think this is well and above and beyond like anything they've ever done. Like I said, I like their albums, but I think this is even better than that, and I think that, you know, going forward, this guy is going to be doing some cool stuff. At number 7, I have Girl with a Basket of Fruit by Shoo Shoo. You know, Shoo Shoo are probably my favorite band. You know, I might be a little bit biased over here, but, you know, it is what it is, and this is another fantastic project from them. And yet again, they've gone in a totally new direction. The weird percussion on this album is just, I don't even know how to describe it. You listen to songs like It Comes Out as a Joke and the title track, and just whatever, and Scissors especially, whatever's happening on those songs, I don't understand, but it sounds fantastic to me. Jamie on this album is just, he's gone insane. And I mean, not that Jamie hasn't always been a very animated and wild character, but like, the lyrics on this thing, man, like, they are freaky, they are crazy. It is like some shit from, I don't know, an Edgar Allan Poe, you know, poem just on acid, and then with like really blunt and almost childish vocabulary at times, but it just creates such a unique flair and persona that this album has that, like, when I listen to this, I don't think of any other music. Like, even the last album I was talking about, Sloss and Malone, you know, it does bring me back to Standing on the Corner, or stuff that, you know, Mike and Earl have done recently, just in terms of production. But this album right here, like, I don't really think of shit. I mean, maybe, you know, like some Scott Walker stuff here or there, but overall, like, this is just some crazy-ass music, more freaky shit from Shoo Shoo. I love it. Not to mention the fact, by the way, that there's still some incredibly raw and emotional and powerful songs on here as well, like Mary Turner, and Normal Love. Like, it's not all just this outlandish shit. And then there's also Pumpkin Attack on Mommy and Daddy, which is just a straight-up banger, you know, probably one of the easiest songs in Shoo Shoo's discography to get into. All those crazy vocal snippets as well. I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that at number 6, I have I Am Easy to Find by The National. Every year, I always have one album. Like, I keep a running list throughout the year, but there's always one album that when I first put it on the list, like, it gradually climbs and climbs and climbs until it's, like, right at the top. And this year, that was that album. You know, when I first heard it, I thought it was good. I was like, oh yeah, there's some pretty beautiful songwriting on here. I like a lot of the tunes. I'm not big on some of the other songs, but, you know, it's a good album overall. I'm not doing anything crazy, but it's good. So, you know, I'll just throw it on the lower end. But then I just haven't been able to resist coming back to this. The mood of this album feels like a very melancholic midlife crisis to me, you know, even more so than The National's other albums this decade. And the songwriting to me is just so strong, and like every track on here is just so beautiful and wistful, and like that's what really would happen anytime I would go back to this thing. It's like a new song would just pop out at me and just really grab me on an emotional level. And like I love all the guest vocalists on here that are going back and forth with Matt. You know, I think that brought a really unique element to this album that isn't present on any of the other National projects. I just love how much swell and grace and power is present in these songs while still keeping them very almost not monotone but very subtle and reserved and just desolate almost at times. It sounds very bleak. The lyrics often feel like they're an acceptance of how little control you can have over the relationships in your life and over your life in general. And songs like Not in Kansas to me highlight how when you look back you see things in a much different way than you do as you're experiencing them. And just overall, like, I don't know, maybe it's because 2019 for me was a massive transition year, going to university, a lot of friends moving away, you know, my entire life pretty much except living in this room here changed, and I guess this was just a great soundtrack to kind of accompany me through that. I think I would have loved it anyways, but it was definitely a very special moment to have with me throughout this year, and I'm very glad I did. At number 5, I have Slimier by Young Nudy and Pierre Bourne. Young Nudy is one of my favorite rappers at the moment, and I think maybe my favorite thing about him is the way he raps, but like specifically his rap patterns, because when you listen to his songs line to line, the cadences almost never match up. The way he maneuvers around the beat, it almost sounds like he's running an obstacle course and he's just constantly dodging and diving into new pockets. And sometimes it's a little more basic, sometimes it gets weirder like on Long Ride, but either way, I always find it a very entertaining way to experience a song with him. And then when he's doing that on top of a set of really damn great Pierre Bourne beats, and which includes some of his weirdest to date, like Swisher Backwood, where the elements of the instrumental, the way they come together, it's like they create two different rhythms happening at once, and it's really jarring, but it's also super cool, and it's a banger at the same time. There's Hot Wings with those bizarre, warbly, bassy synths. You have Extendo, which is one of the most beautiful beats I'd say Pierre has ever produced, feels super lavish. And then you have more minimalistic songs like Dispatch and Shadow, which, I mean, compositionally, yeah, they're simplistic as fuck, but I think that, like, the synths that Pierre used are super colorful, and I think that the way that DaBaby, Megan, and Nudy ride over these beats, it just makes for super bouncy, fun, catchy songs. At number 4, I have Norman fucking Rockwell by Lana Del Rey. I mean, Lana's smoky, whispery voice perfectly suits these really graceful piano ballads that, I mean, Jack Antonoff and her have kicked off here. The songwriting on here I think is maybe her strongest ever. Not only is each individual song I think perfectly written in terms of what it wants to accomplish for the concept of that individual song, but I also love, like, there's just so many standout lyrics on this thing that I always fucking just sing in my head because of just how fantastic they are and just how much they punch you in the face the first time you heard them, especially like the way the album opens up with those first lines on the title track. I also love the display of attitude she brings on here. She brings that really badass cutthroat persona to a lot of these songs where it feels like she's just gonna like grab you by the throat and choke you to death while still being like super reserved and smoky at the same time. Like, she can just bring out that like Cersei Lannister energy, if you know what I mean. Then she has songs like California and How to Disappear and Hope is a Butterfly, where she just feels super vulnerable and raw, and I just love a lot of the notes she hits in her upper register on those songs, which is, I mean, she's not like the best technical singer ever, but that's exactly why I think it works so well in the context of those songs, because it just makes it feel so much more human to me. At number 3, I have Hiding Places by Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel. Billy Woods just proves on here that everyone besides him is a piece of shit and has no idea how to write a song, because every single verse on this album is fucking perfect. And like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that, because this has been maybe the most rewarding album as far as repeat listens go. Like, I'll just be walking outside, going for a walk, listening to this album. I start punching the air. I just start getting mad. I'm like, how the hell? Like, I catch a line like that I didn't catch until my 20th listen. I'm like, how the fuck? Like, what are you even doing on here, Billy? Like, holy shit, like, every fucking line on this thing. Jesus Christ, I'm pissed off now. I mean, Billy has always been one of the best, if not the best lyricist of, I don't know, ever, or the last decade, whatever you want to say. The guy is crazy. The guy is crazy. The way he raps also, I mean, like, he's not changing how he raps on here, but in general, his rap style is just super unique and cool and awesome. He's kind of like Young Nudy in a very different context, and he raps a very different way, but he also, changes up his flow, his cadence from, like, line to line. He's just walking around the beat in, like, the weirdest fucking way. But either way, what makes this his best project to me is the fact that not only is, like, every single line just pretty much a great bar, but like in totality, these songs, like, a lot of them hit like a brick. I mean, a day, in a week, in a year, holy fucking shit, man. Like, that song just stops me on my tracks every time, especially like the joystick line and the part about, you're like, yo, I was standing right there. I mean, that song to me is just a perfect encapsulation of what it's like to, walk around your city that you've lived in for 20 years and you just see like ghosts of yourself, ghosts of the past, like everywhere you go. And I mean, the way it captures that is so fucking chilling. I'm not making a video for it, but I'd like to let everyone know that that is my favorite song of the year as well, because that song just hits me in the face like a train. But that's not the only song on here where he does that. You have Steak Knives, you have Red Dust. Oh my god, like that's almost on the same level to me as A Day in a Week in a Year. And what a way to close the album as well. But yeah, this man, he basically, he just punches you in the face the entire album, both with how amazing the bars are. The beats from Kenny Siegel, by the way, which I haven't mentioned, which I should because they're fantastic and maybe the best beats that Billy has ever rapped over. I said earlier that Terror Management were like the coolest beats he's ever rapped over, and I stand by that. But as far as like quality, the beats on here, I mean, Checkpoints, Spider Hole, like goddamn, Kenny brought his A game for this one, and the beats fit Billy really fantastically as well. But overall, just like Billy himself, whole other level he reaches on this one in my opinion, and this is one that like I don't think it's ever gonna stop being like an incredibly rewarding listen for me. At number 2, I have FKA Twigs with Magdalene after I think almost 5-year wait from Melissa with only one single, was it? Good to Love dropped in between. I mean, I was just hungry. I was hungry for some new FKA Twigs. And of course, when I heard the announcement for this album, along with Cellophane, which I mean is a stunning, stunning song, what an incredible ballad. Twigs' vocals on that, whew, chill me to my core, as they do on this entire project, actually. And I mean, she came through and made the wait entirely worth it, because not only is this a fantastic album, but the artistic progression that I feel on here as well, I think it's just so powerful, especially in the context of what the album is about. It's basically her emerging from a fractured and finished relationship, and it basically just feels like her, you know, crawling her way back to the sunlight, if you know what I mean. Like, it's just her finding herself again in the midst of this pain and sadness. Vocally, this is my favorite album I've heard in who even knows how long. You know, I'm not a singer. I don't know if technically if she's the best vocalist ever, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if she's hitting the perfect notes. I don't really care. All I know is that in terms of the raw emotion and power and beauty that just shines from her voice, and especially any of the high notes she hits, any of the falsetto vocals that she performs on here, it is just, man, it is stunning to me. Like, it is basically, I just feel like I'm being serenaded, like, by angels every time. I mean, maybe like really sad angels, but that's part of why it's so powerful. And with the production and the songwriting on here, it feels like she's taken her kind of bizarro art pop aesthetic and then applied that to writing ballads, and the end result is, again, it's stunning. Having these strange and unique synth tones and textures just placed all throughout these swelling ballad-like songs, like, it just creates, you know, pure beauty. Listening to this album, I just want to do an interpretive dance. You know, that's what this album feels like to me. It feels like an alien who just landed on Earth and is doing an interpretive dance to tell us their story of heartbreak, and it is beautiful. And finally, we are down to the number 1 spot, and what do I have at my number 1? I have The Whole Lot of Red Leaks by Playboi Carti. No, that's not right. I'm not supposed to put that on here, but it's fucking fantastic anyways, and you should all go check out those songs. At my real number 1 is Everywhere at the End of Time by The Caretaker. That's also not true, because it's a compilation that, you know, 80% of the music wasn't released in 2019, and I feel weird as fuck ranking it amongst albums, but it's still a special and unique ass project, and you've never heard anything like it in your life, and the concept behind it is tragic and also, you know, incredible. And go check that one out as well. Those are my honorary number 1s, those projects I just listed, because, you know, it's some of my favorite music that I enjoyed throughout 2019, but as far as putting it on an albums list, neither of them really made sense to me, but I wanted to shout them out anyway, so there we go. Now my real number 1, as a surprise to no one, is Free Wave 3 by Lucky. And yeah, I'm not going to talk about it, because I just did a really super in-depth review of it that you guys should all go watch, because, you know, put a lot of time into it, wrote, you know, some big old notes for it. You know, it took me a few months because I was lazy as fuck, not because it actually took me months to write it, but, you know, I worked on it for kind of a long time. I thought it was pretty good. Go check out that review, because, you know, kind of did shit in terms of views, but I don't really care. I'm just saying, you know, I spent like, you know, what, 20 minutes talking about it there. I'm not going to really repeat myself here, especially when I explain myself a lot better in that video. And the time I've spent talking about how you should watch that video, I could have just explained what this album is like, but I'm still not going to. And you're just going to have to settle for the fact that this is my number 1 album of the year. And thank you guys, as always, for watching, and I'll see you next time.